Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. We're going to be reading chapter 1 in our new book, which is The Lost Gospel of Thomas. So we read the opening or the foreword and then the introduction, and now we're going to read chapter 1, which talks about the discovery of these secret texts or secret teachings, however you want to refer to them. And depending on time-wise, we may read the second chapter, but we'll for sure read chapter 1. None of these chapters, from what I can tell, are super duper long. All right. Matthew Thomas Farrell shares a striking exposition of how the lost gospel was found. One morning, Muhammad Ali al-Saman and his brother Khalifa saddled up their camels and rode off for the Djel al-Tarif, a nearby mountain. Some of these words are a little harder to pronounce, so I apologize. Jebel el-Tarif, I think, which is a nearby mountain. The journey would take them several hours, so during the trip, they talked. Mostly, their discussions focused on a man who lived in a nearby village. His name was Ahmad Hawara. The two brothers were plotting his murder. Back in May, Ahmad had killed Muhammad Ali's father, the latest victim of an ongoing blood feud. Muhammad Ali wished to avenge his dad's death and bandied ideas with Khalifa on how best to achieve this ghoulish goal. At his side, he had a mattock, which is kind of like a pickaxe, but the blade is a little bit different, but it's called a mattock, which his mother advised him to keep sharp should they happen to find the monster who made her a widow. For now, however, he intended to use it to dig sabach, which is a soft, nitrogen-rich soil that is good natural fertilizer. They reached Jebel el-Tarif, an imposing mound with over 150 caves, and chose a suitable place to hobble their camels. Muhammad Ali began to dig around a boulder, and to his surprise, encountered something solid buried in the ground. Quickly, he unearthed a large gray pot caked with ages of earth. The top, he saw, was sealed on with bitumen, which is a thick black petroleum-based substance that's found in crude oil or sand. Muhammad Ali pondered this a moment, extremely uneasy. After all, just to the north, on another side of El Tarif, was an old graveyard. Officials who served the pharaohs of the 6th dynasty with distinction were interned there. He considered the jar before him, mattock in hand. To him, there was the very real possibility that it might contain a jinn, and breaking it open would release it, or a genie, as we call them. Muhammad Ali had no desire to free and then confront an evil spirit, but of course it might also contain gold. He weighed his options, and greed conquered superstition. Hefting his mattock, he smashed open the top. A shower of tiny golden flecks rose up on crests of stale air, to be carried away by the wind. Leaning over, Muhammad Ali looked inside. He found it held not gold or spirits, but 13 leather-bound books, filled with crumbling yellowed pages that flaked off and blew away as he pulled the tomes out to examine them. The pages were cracked and brittle and filled with an elegant calligraphy totally lost on his illiteracy. He had no idea what they were, but was certain of one thing: these books were ancient, which meant that they were very valuable. Antiques dealers in Cairo just loved these things and paid good money for them. So wrapping them in his tunic, he returned home and put them on a bed of straw right next to the stove. His mother was pleased. Not only had her son brought fertilizer for their crops, he apparently found some kindling as well. Her joy became even greater a month later when she learned that Ahmad was nearby. She urged her sons to go seek vengeance and then tossed another codex on the fire to brew up a cup of tea. Muhammad Ali and his 6 brothers carried out their mission with the zeal that would have made Mama proud. In fact, they attacked Ahmad while he was asleep and hacked off his limbs bit by bit, ripped out his heart and devoured it among them as the ultimate act of blood revenge. Unfortunately for them, the person they had chosen to kill was the son of the local sheriff. Ahmad was not very popular, and the villagers, who had eagerly shown Muhammad Ali where Ahmad was, suddenly suffered acute amnesia regarding the whole affair. During the investigation, Muhammad Ali learned that the authorities were going to search his house for evidence. He decided it prudent to sequester the books until he could eventually get to Cairo to sell them. He gave several to friends for safekeeping. He also gave one to a Coptic priest, knowing that a priest's house would hardly be searched. The priest agreed to keep it for him and put it aside without looking at it. Coptic priests can marry, and this priest's brother-in-law happened to be visiting. He saw Muhammad Ali's codex, suspected its value, and promptly stole it. He took it to an antiques dealer in Cairo who bought it for $250. It doesn't say what kind of money, Egyptian money, I guess. Most, if not all, of Muhammad Ali's friends did likewise over the next year as the homicide investigation dragged on. This eventually attracted the attention of the Department of Antiques, who began to acquire them and ultimately resorted to nationalization to get possession. Still, several of the codices made a successful exodus from Egypt. One was purchased by the Carl Jung Foundation and presented to the psychologist on his 80th birthday. The CJF made the first serious attempt to translate their work, which turned out to be an anthology containing titles such as The Prayer of the Apostle Paul, the Apocryphon, or i.e., Secret Book of James, the Gospel of Truth, and the Treatise on the Resurrection. And the CJF is just the Carl Jung Foundation, because it's Jung. I think it's Carl Jung, Jung. Unfortunately, numerous pages were missing, making any sort of translation at that point difficult at best. In an effort to solve this, Professor Giles Quespel investigated the history of the Codex and flew to the Coptic Museum in Cairo, where the surviving texts had eventually been acquired. It turned out that they did have most of the missing pages from what is now known as the Jung Codex, and they agreed to give him photographs of the missing pages, plus several of the other texts as well. Hurrying back to his hotel room, Quespel began deciphering the ancient manuscripts. His curiosity quickly turned to astonishment when the very first thing he read was, "These are the secret words which the living Jesus spoke, and which the twin, Judas Thomas, wrote down." After nearly 2 millennia, the Gospel according to Thomas had finally been found. I find that really interesting that they mention Judas, because I learned a long time ago that in one of the books that I read, that Judas was the scribe for Jesus. So whenever he would go to teach and to preach, there was somebody who was responsible for writing down what it was that Jesus said. And that person was Judas. And in this book, they mention Judas Thomas. So I'm wondering if it's the same person or if there was more than one Judas. We all know who Judas is. He's very famous for his role in the crucifixion and has gotten a pretty bad rap. But there is much to learn about the story of Judas and his fated role to play, of which Jesus knew about. Okay, let me take a look at the second chapter. Oh, you know what? After that, it's broken up into what's called logion, Logion, not necessarily chapters. Only the first and second sections of this book are broken up in a chapter-like setting. So let me take a look at where we stop with our first section in chapter 2, and we may be able to read it. Otherwise, I may have to just break these down. Yeah, I think we're going to stop here with just the way that the texts were found, because then we're going to go into all of the rest of the story, what's going to happen with them from there, and then all of the texts, and we're going to actually read those texts. But I wanted to keep these videos for this book a little bit shorter because my last few books, we've had some longer videos, and it's just a lot to take in. These are a little bit more approachable when they're shorter. They do make for more videos, but that's okay. They're more approachable, and I think sometimes a long video can automatically deter somebody who may not want to spend that much time. So I'm going to leave it at that, and then I'll take a look at the book and see how I'm going to break up the actual meat of the book, so to speak, and then we'll go from there. So thank you all so very much for joining me for this short little video, and until I see you again, take care of yourself, take care of those around you. I love you all very much. Until next time.